We are taught that spring is a time of gentle rebirth, a celebration of life returning to the world. But we have been lied to. In the ancient texts, the origin of spring was not a peaceful awakening, but a violent hostage crisis that nearly drove humanity to extinction. It is a story where the line between kidnapping and liberation blurs, and where the most terrifying monster isn't a beast with fangs, but a mother whose grief turned the world to ice. But before we understand how the seasons were forged in darkness, we have to ask ourselves a disturbing question. Did the victim of this story actually want to be taken? Because what happened beneath the earth changed the innocent goddess of spring into something far more dangerous, something that even the king of the dead learned to fear. High atop Mount Olympus, Persephone was the embodiment of purity, a golden child living in a cage made of sunlight. Her mother, Demeter, the goddess of agriculture, was not just protective, she was suffocating. She curated every breath her daughter took, shielding her from the raw, chaotic nature of the cosmos, desperate to maintain Persephone's eternal virginity and innocence. But innocence is fragile, and shadows are inevitable. While Demeter was distracted, Persephone wandered into the Nysian fields, drawn away from the safety of her mother's watchful eye. It was a trap, orchestrated by the highest powers, a conspiracy of gods. Zeus himself had turned a blind eye to the desires of his brother, Hades. The lord of the Underworld had been watching from the gloom, consumed by a cold, burning passion that he could no longer suppress. He didn't want a dalliance. He wanted a queen. And he was done waiting. The attack was not subtle. It was cataclysmic. The lush grass of the meadow didn't just part. The earth was torn open as if by a giant claw. From a gaping, sulphurous chasm, a chariot drawn by night-black horses erupted into the daylight, driven by Hades himself. The air instantly turned from the sweet scent of flowers to the metallic tang of ash and fear. Before Persephone could even scream, she was snatched from the light. The abduction was brutal, swift, and absolute. As the chariot plunged back into the abyss, the fissure sealed shut, leaving no trace but crushed petals. Her cry for help was swallowed by the earth, unheard by anyone except the silent stones. But Demeter knew. A mother's instinct is a primal force, and when she found her daughter gone, her sorrow did not manifest as tears. It manifested as a plague. Demeter tore the badges of divinity from her shoulders and descended into madness. She roamed the earth, a ragged wanderer, searching for a ghost. When she realized the depth of the betrayal, that Zeus had allowed this, that the earth had swallowed her child, she declared war on life itself. She stopped the crops from growing. The rich soil turned to dust. The rivers ran dry. It was the first winter the world had ever known, a weaponized famine designed to strangle the gods by starving their worshippers. Humanity began to die in droves. No grain, no bread, no sacrifices to burn on the altars of Olympus. The gods grew weak as the smoke of burnt offerings faded. Zeus looked down from his high throne and realized that Demeter wasn't bluffing. She would kill every living thing on the planet to get her daughter back. The king of gods had no choice but to break his silence and send Hermes, the messenger, into the shadows to negotiate with death itself. But down in the dark, something unexpected was happening. The Underworld was not merely a dungeon. It was a kingdom of infinite quiet and jeweled caverns, a stark contrast to the blinding, noisy expectations of Olympus. Hades, often painted as a villain, was not cruel to Persephone. He offered her something she never had under her mother's suffocating grip: power, sovereignty. He treated her with a reverence that bordered on worship. Slowly, the terror faded, replaced by a strange curiosity. The innocent girl was evolving. And then came the moment of no return. Whether by trickery or by her own secret desire to remain a queen, Persephone consumed the food of the dead. She ate the seeds of a pomegranate, the fruit of the underworld. It was a binding contract written in juice as red as blood. Even when Hermes arrived to rescue her, the deal had been struck. She belonged to the darkness now, just as much as she belonged to the light. A compromise was forged at the edge of the world, a treaty between the grieving mother and the lonely husband. Persephone would not return permanently. She was no longer just the daughter of Demeter. She was the queen of iron and bone. The deal dictated she would spend half the year in the sun, bringing life and warmth, and the other half in the shadows, reigning beside her husband. This is how the seasons were born. When she returns to the surface, Demeter rejoices, and spring erupts. But when she descends back to her throne, Demeter weeps, and the world freezes into winter. But look closely at the ancient statues. When Persephone descends, she does not look back in fear. She walks into the dark with her head high, the only goddess who holds the keys to both life and death. Here is the twist that history often overlooks. We view this story as a tragedy of a stolen girl. But perhaps it is actually the story of a woman escaping a golden cage. Demeter's love was safety, but it was also stagnation, an eternal childhood where nothing changed and nothing grew. Hades represented the terrifying unknown, the darkness, the risk. Yet it was only in the dark that Persephone found her crown. The irony is haunting. The monster who kidnapped her gave her a kingdom, while the heroic mother who tried to save her nearly destroyed the world to keep her a child. We fear the darkness, but the ancients knew that without the descent, there is no ascension. This mirrors our own modern existence in a way that is uncomfortable to admit. We claim we want freedom, yet we cling to the safety of what we know, even if it suffocates us. We stay in jobs we hate, relationships that stunt us, and mindsets that keep us small, all because we are terrified of the underworld, that period of uncertainty and darkness where we must stand alone. We villainize the events that force us to change, ignoring the fact that those catastrophes are often the only things that give us the authority to rule our own lives. You cannot be the ruler of your own soul if you never leave the garden of innocence. So I leave you with this choice. If the chariot came for you today, offering you a kingdom in the unknown at the cost of everything you find comfortable, would you take the hand of the dark god? Or would you stay in the sun, safe, warm, and eternally small? Most people choose the sun, but legends are written about those who eat the pomegranate. If you want to survive the winter and understand the monsters that built our history, you know what to do. Join us next time as we descend even deeper.